Well, it's 6:30, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I realize people are still coming in, but I want to make sure to respect everyone's time. As we get started, I just want to do a quick sound check. I know last time people could not hear me, so I want to make sure that everybody could hear me okay. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody see the PowerPoint? Perfect. That's a good start. All right. So right now I would like you to mute your microphones and then unmute it at any time you want to share your thoughts or have questions. Muting your microphone helps cut down on the background noise. You can always use the chat box as well. I'll be sharing your questions and answers to the rest of the class who cannot make it tonight because the recording will not be able to show the little chat box for everyone to see. So as we get started, well, first of all, good evening and welcome to our second live session module. This is the overview for tonight's module for our live session. We'll start out with reminders and important dates. We will have welcome and introductions. We'll check in. We will navigate locating the resource tab. We will go through APA formatting in regards to the cover page. We'll have some time for reflection and critical questions from Chapter 7. Importance of play, reviewing what we have learned from the last module, and then nurturing relationships. And we will also have question and answer time. Karine, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, perfect. All right. So I just want to go over some reminders. So please make sure to review the course calendar. Assignments are due at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time every Sunday. Initial discussions posts are due by 11:59 p.m. every Tuesday. Discussion responses to peers are due by 11:59 p.m. every Saturday. We will have our third and final live session next Wednesday, May 2nd at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And just a reminder to not forget to work on your journals this week because they are due next week in Module 5. But you should be writing one journal entry each week anyways. And then this week's area of focus is how educators impact positive self-esteem. So I just want to share a little bit about myself. I know most of you know who I am. I am Mike and I live in Colorado. I've worked for the public and private sectors as a teacher, as a director for the last 10 years, and have worked in the public schools. Right now I'm currently the education supervisor for the Adams County Head Start program in Denver Metro. The picture that you see is me and my family from this summer. We were at Disneyland, California, and that is one of my favorite places to go because the beach is calming and peaceful, and well, I don't know if it's Disney World or Disneyland, it is supposed to be like the funnest thing ever. So So I'd like for you guys to get to know one another. You guys could participate through the chat box or through your audio, whatever you guys feel most comfortable with. I'd like you guys to participate and share your name, your state where you reside, your favorite place to visit, and why.
Hi, my name is, I'm sorry, can anybody hear me?
I could hear you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Naomi. I shared this before, but I'm from a little island in the Caribbean named Grenada. I reside in New York City. I work for CCLC. I love going camping with my family every summer.
Thank you for sharing, Naomi.
You're welcome.
Do you have a favorite camping spot in New York?
Not in New York. We usually go on the Delaware River. So I've never been camping in New York, but we usually go to Kittini, I think is the name if I'm pronouncing it right, Kittini campsite on the Delaware River.
Well, thank you for sharing, Naomi. Welcome. So we also have Miss Corrine, who's also online. She is from Minnesota, and she loves going to the lake and with her family and fishing and more. Welcome, Corrine. I'm from a very small town right on the border of North Dakota and Minnesota. I'm from Grand Forks, North Dakota. So I know Minnesota pretty well. And yes, fishing is essential over there, and being on the lake with the boat is really, really fun out there. So welcome, Corrine. Maria is also online. She lives in Indiana, and she loves to visit Florida because her family lives there, and it's at the beach. She loves the water and likes to go swimming every day if she can in the summer. Well, thank you, Corrine and Marie and Naomi, for joining us in the live session, and thank you. And it looks like Diana is on too. Diana, can you hear me? Hi, Diana.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I was having the hardest time I downloaded the Cisco WebEx like 5 times. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. We're just sharing a little bit about ourselves. Where you're from,
Okay.
favorite place you have visited, and why, and just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I love Disneyland.
So Disneyland is one of our favorites.
Mhm.
So yeah, go ahead and you could share. You could
Okay.
share through audio. You could share through the chat box. However you feel most comfortable.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So, my name is Diana Hernandez. My favorite place actually is Disneyland too. I'm from California originally, and we we would always have our family members join us from out of state. So this is where we would take them to visit. We would take all of our family members from Virginia, from Texas, from Utah. We would take them all to Disneyland. So that's one of our favorite places. And the reason why is because it's such a happy place. Really, it sounds a little cliche, but it really is. You know, it's just so family friendly, and you're able to take the kids. You're able to have fun. Adults enjoy food. I love the beignets in downtown Disney. They are just delicious. And I'm sure you probably, since you've been to Disneyland, you can attain that. The bakeries are just amazing. The food is amazing. And I think those are one of our favorite places as well. And other than that, it would be, let's see, the river. Here in Virginia now, one of our favorite places is going down to the river. It's like so calming, so peaceful, and it's very relaxing, you know, away from all technology. Usually there's no internet connection down at the river out in the countryside. So it's a great way to get away from everything and just relax.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Diana, for sharing, and welcome to our live session tonight.
Thank you.
Diana, can I ask for you to, if you're not speaking, to mute just the background, just so it cuts down on the background noise.
Gotcha.
And then, yeah, whenever you want to talk, you could just hit unmute and talk. So, well, welcome everybody. We have a lot to go through. I am glad that you are here. Since you guys are here tonight, you guys will not have to write anything for your live session. This is all you need to do is be engaged in the live session, and you get credit for it. It is the easiest points you will have besides the signing the Acknowledge handbook. So, all right, just want to keep going. So, how we want to check in tonight. So, how is the class going for you guys so far? What are your reactions from this week? So the class is kind of creeps up on you. Like the first week you don't really have much to do, and then all of a sudden you get slammed with a bunch of assignments, and it gets very, very, very busy. Yes, Marie said it gets very busy. Yes, and then it slows down in the very last week. So just make sure to stay on top of things. Are you guys reading the announcements? Using scoring rubrics, how are you doing with API formatting? We will go over that tonight, and then I could go over where the resource tab is too, which will be my very next thing. And you guys are all doing well in the class, so I know if you guys have questions or anything, just make sure to reach out to me. I try to get back to you as soon as I can, because text is usually the best, unless it's Sunday morning. Usually I'm in church, but I will usually respond pretty quickly through text, unless I'm in church or a meeting or something very important, or if I have to give a presentation or whatnot. Diana said that she feels that it's helpful that we have time during the week to work on homework. Yes, that is great. So, you guys, seems like everybody is doing well. I'm going to keep going. So how do I get to the resource tab? I know for a lot of you, this might be your first class with Rasmussen. Some of you, this might not be your first class, but I just wanted to go over especially for the people that are new who don't know where to find the resource tab. So I've decided to do a visual for your guys' reference, just in case you are still trying to navigate through Blackboard. The picture is kind of not very good, but so very first thing you need to do is you want to click on the click on the top right of the page and it will say resources, and then once you click on that tab, it'll bring you to a page that looks like this. And on this picture, it'll show up, it'll provide you a visual that looks like this, and then you can navigate APA formatting. And there's also other resources and stuff that you guys could see right there. So I really just encourage you guys to play around with it, and if you have time to do that, that would be great, just so you guys could look at that and just see everything that Rasmussen has to offer, such as the library and the tutoring platform and everything else. Well, thank you for sharing, Diana. Diana said the amount of information is amazing. It truly helps. And yes, a lot of people don't know about this. That's kind of the reason I wanted to walk you guys through it. Because this way, I mean, even if this is your first class and you're taking another class, some other instructors might want you, and they might want you to navigate this and know this, and it just gives you more options of how to write, and pretty much everything that you will ever need is right there. So I'm going to move on. So once you guys get to the, say, APA formatting, so I want to go over the APA formatting title page. I know in last week's assignment, some of you guys had trouble, not you guys that are online, but as a whole for a class. Some of you guys had some trouble with formatting an APA title page, or maybe you guys just didn't read the rubrics completely complete. But I really wanted to go over this because it's really quite easy. And some of you guys were missing really easy points on it because you didn't have a separate cover page, or you were possibly missing some components to the cover page. So APA formatting, basically, you need a separate cover page that is obviously separate, and then you want to show, I wanted to show you this example so none of you guys will miss out on these easy points. So basically, a lot of you guys are already doing this, but for the people that don't understand APA, the title page, basically you have a separate title page with your title, your name, Rasmussen College, and towards the bottom quarter of the title page, you have to have the author's note that states this paper is being submitted on so-and-so date, the year, and for your instructor and the class. So it should look basically like this. If you do not know, if you do that each time, it's required for an APA, for APA formatting for cover pages. You guys will never lose points in my class. So basically, copy this, and that's all you need, and fill in the blanks. It's quite simple. Does anybody have any questions with APA formatting? Great. Looks like nobody has questions for APA formatting. If you are watching the recording and you just don't understand it still, please reach out to me and I will navigate you through it. So, moving along, the importance of play. So, we're going to kind of review a little bit from module 3. So in Module 3, in Chapter 7, you guys were learning about establishing effective environments for young children. Oh no. So yeah, importance of play. What factors, going back to last week, what factors would make play less enjoyable?
An environment that is not, an environment that is not DPA or child friendly, a positive, for children to play, a positive area for children to play.
What does that look like in your eyes?
A DPA class is a classroom or an environment or even outside play that have an area that children can reach stuff at their level, play with things that are, not, I would say that they cannot hurt themselves with, or just having, a good area that, we could keep our eyes on them and, engage with them and play with them. That's what it, to me, that's what it's supposed to be like.
Sure, yeah. A safe environment is always a great thing, especially with DAP. Having the right chairs for your children and having the right, enough supplies for the children and enough manipulatives for them to play in and engage in play. So the question is, Corrine was asking, what factors would make play less enjoyable?
I have to say, this is Diana. I have to add that it is kind of a given, but to be able to let the kids play with the manipulatives, the toys, that the puzzles that you have in a classroom. I have had some, working in a child care center. I go around the center, walking around. I meet teachers. I see how they're doing, and sometimes just for the plain reason, as silly as or dumb as it may seem, they don't want to let the kids play with some toys so that they don't make a mess. Because it's like once the 2-year-olds get a hold of the whole room, they can make a disaster. But I think that being able to just let them play structured, doesn't mean that they're going to make a mess and destroy the room, but just being able to let them play and enjoy the toys that they have and not just be for display when there's tours. I think that's important, and that's how being able to not let them play with toys or certain things, I think that's how it's less enjoyable, or hiding the toys. We've had this situation at our center where a teacher had to get written up even because she kept hiding the toys in the paint or the Play-Doh or the magic foam. She kept hiding it in the closet so that the kids wouldn't make a mess with it, and it was just very sad, because they started getting bored of playing just with a certain puzzle or just with the playhouse, That's my input.
Well, thank you for sharing, Diana. I completely agree with that. I think that children need to make sure, teachers need to make sure that children have a bunch of manipulatives to play to make sure that they are getting all the development areas. I mean, there's so much you could do with different manipulatives, and painting and creative art and stuff like that just helps fine motor and just cognitive. There's just so much that you could do.
Definitely, yes. I agree.
Corrine said, but if children are being aggressive with the toys, what else would you do? And I think that we will dive a little bit into this with kind of what the discussion with nurturing relationships for this week's topic. What I honestly think is just like your own children. Well, I have a 2.5-year-old, and I'm still trying to figure her out. But I think you really need to train your children by setting up classroom rules right away, right when they get in there, and always refer back to those rules when there are children who are being aggressive or are being disruptive, and just remind them in constant reminders, and if you don't do it right away, they will forget what you're talking about. So it's really, really important to make sure that you state what the rules are, and basically with 3 or 4 or 5 rules, you constantly remind them throughout the day. I think that will really help their structure and will help, like, especially cleaning up. Like, I'm sure the lady that what Diana was saying about the paint, of hiding the paint, I'm sure, my guess is that she probably doesn't have rules all around how children should pick up
And
what they need to do.
if I may add, Professor, one of the observations was that she would have rules, but she would express her emotions of frustration with the kids a lot. She's not. It was in the Discovery Preschool, so it was in the 2-year-old classroom. But she would express her frustration to them a lot. And I walk into the classroom because just today, because we don't have that teacher with us anymore, she decided to leave. So I'm in the classroom, in the 2-year-old classroom, and the parents, I'm so happy that they say this. They said, "It's so calm today. What did you do?" And I'm like, they know me. They respect me. They know I have rules and expectations, and they enjoy having a class of order. So it's not just about telling them the rules, but carrying yourself as a teacher with confidence and respecting them, not yelling at them, but saying, you know what? It's cleanup time. If we want to go outside and play, we have to clean. And they're like, oh, okay, I do want to play. I think it's not just about like saying rules, which is very important because it's how they learn, but also how you carry yourself as a teacher,
Yeah, and it's saying the rules, but it's also being a model and role modeling it and making sure that your demeanor is positive, because children pick up on that very quickly. If you're having a bad attitude and you're just struggling and you're basically just really frustrated, they pick up on that and they will act out even more. So yeah, it's a little bit it's a little crazy at times, but I think that people that are in ECE, they have to have a passion for it, and they have to really love children, because the pay is not great. So we don't do it for the pay. We do it because we love children and we want to see them learn. So Corrine says, we have a 2-year-old who hits and punches our 1-year-olds. Oh boy. How would you guys handle a situation that if a child or a 2-year-old would hit and punch a 1-year-old? First of all, in the state of Colorado, we probably would not put a 1-year-old with a 2-year-old. 2-year-olds will be in one room. 1-year-old will be in one room. 18 months would be in one room. How do you handle that, Corrine?
Professor, may I comment?
Yeah, go ahead, of course.
I have a lot of experience with the 2-year-olds. They're absolutely my favorite age, even though they are a bit of a challenge. Um, but what I would like to say is that they need extra attention, and after you continue to give them extra attention, and you would show them and give them examples of not, or this is not nice, or speak to them, you explain to them. After a long time of having extra attention to that one child, they do get better, but you have to, with loving arms and loving hearts, you have to show them, explain to them consistently, and after weeks, maybe, I think that they do get better. They really do. With hitting and biting.
Yes, I really think a lot of the times that you have to really get to know your child, so you develop that relationship with them.
If I can add, this is Naomi. Well, I am the opener for my center in New York City, and I open the center with different ages. So I know that they're not supposed to all be together at that age group, but you have to remember who we're talking about. We're talking about a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old, and whatever 2-year-olds do, it's a little bit on the higher side of doing things like basically their stages are different, their mobile skills are different, things that they do will be different, and maybe that child just feel like it's not a suitable environment for him or her, that they're being held back, so they take their frustration out. I would say try to move that child from that classroom and put him into a classroom that is suitable for his age, or have kids that is at his age level that he can relate to or move or play with, because you have a 1-year-old who cannot really use words or even express themselves through play easily as a 2-year-old could. And I think it's just part of his frustration that he's lashing out. So even though we sit and talk with them and say, "Oh, you're not supposed to do this. Let me help you or redirect you or try to help him grow and develop into not hitting. Oh, hands are not for hitting, teeth are not for biting." Still, he's frustrated in his environment. So unless that child is that you move that child out of that environment and put him in a classroom that is at his level, the children are at his level, he can relate to them, it's going to continue until that is done. I believe so.
Well, thank you for your perspective, Naomi. You hit it right on the nose. I think that children do tend to lash out when they are older and have more advanced developmental stages, which causes problems in the classroom. Um, so yeah, I mean, it would be probably suitable for the 2-year-old to be moved up. Good conversation on this. Does anybody have anything else pretty much to share of so if you're viewing this uh, or if you're viewing this recording at home, for the people that are not here, please respond to what factors would make play less enjoyable and what factors might restrict play. So, other factors that what other factors that might restrict play is when children are directed to a specific area. I know Diana kind of shared on that with specific manipulatives, a specific interest area and are rotated on a time schedule, or when material and toys must stay in one interest area, blocks must stay in the block area, books must stay in the book area, or there's a limited amount of materials where children cannot play with the same things at the same time. It can also be constricted when there's a rigid daily schedule. So you probably see a lot of if you have a lot of transitions between activities in a short amount of time of play, you could probably see a lot of this behavior there too as well. I do think that children should play the majority of the day, but they also should have some structured time too. And I think right away in the morning is a good time for structured time. Possibly before they go to eat would be a good time for like a story time or sing and dance. And then possibly right before they go out to play. So, finding that mix, but they should play a lot. There's really no specific amount of time, but I would say most programs should, especially if they're open from 6 to 6 or 6:30 to 6:30, should have a fourth of the time playing at least. Another thing, a lot of times you see teachers talking and there's not much child talk, so children should also do the majority of the talking in the classroom. And you, as teachers, you guys should be also asking questions just to foster their learning and just to scaffold their learning and to meet them where they're at and build on that. So does anybody have anything else to share on that? It's Module 3, implementation of Module 3. So,
Professor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I have a quick question about the previous slide. When you said that, yes, you know how you said that it's about sometimes we keep the blocks in the block area, puzzles in the puzzles. Is that okay or is that not okay?
It's okay. It could be okay and it could not be okay. It depends on how you want it. I think that children should learn to play in one area, but I don't think that they should be limited to just play in one area. It depends on your classroom and it depends on your children and it depends on your co-teacher too. Is there a right or wrong answer? No, there is not a right or wrong answer. It's about basically how you want to structure your classroom.
And I'm sure it varies with the age group, right?
Yeah, I mean, for toddlers, you probably want to train them that blocks stay in the block area, Legos stay in the Lego area. But as they get older and you want to expose them to different things, like blocks could be in the sand table because that's part of construction. And that's how we build buildings, with dirt and with building blocks. And possibly taking art outside. One of the things I do at my center with my teachers is I try to have them paint outside, and so the public and the community could see what we are and who we are and what they do and what the children do. We take good pride in that, and I think bringing your inside classroom outside is good. Now, what specific age should you start doing that? It depends. I would have to say probably preschool is a good time. 3s, 4s, 5s. 2s probably not so much because you're just learning different skills, but definitely for preschool.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. I think, a lot of the times teachers don't want to take that extra step to bring stuff in, bring stuff out, bring stuff in, bring stuff out. But I think it's a great idea just because children, it's something new and it's something new and it's innovative.
Yeah, just last week, our transitional kindergarten teacher, she had lunch outside with the 5-year-olds, and they were just in. You should have seen them. They were so happy. It was just a perfect spring day here in Virginia. But I mean, they're just having lunch. Really, nothing changed. But they're just having it on the playground, in the fresh air, it was sunny, and I just absolutely love that idea. And I think that as a new experience for the children, and being able to say, what, we can have lunch outside. It's able to develop their how they think. I just think it's a wonderful idea to be able to move them from different classrooms and not just have them in one confined room all day.
Yes, I think that is a good idea. I used to have picnics all the time, teddy bear picnics with my children when I was a teacher. We made that a routine, just because it's something different. And as a teacher, I think getting into the same routine sometimes bores you, especially if you are a teacher who's been in the profession for a while. So I think having that ability to do that and taking, your inside, outside, whatever it looks like, if it's eating outside or if it's building blocks outside or say an igloo outside. I see Corrine says that they still have snow on the ground in Minnesota, and yeah, I heard it's pretty rough out there still, and cold. But like doing fun stuff like that, and another thing that I used to do was collect milk jugs, um, big gallon milk jugs, and I would take all those milk jugs that I have, and I would start building an outside igloo of milk jugs. So just different things like that. Um, the kids really, really like, especially in preschool. So I'm going to move on for the sake of time. So if you're listening to the recording online, this is another question that I would like you guys to answer is, from chapter 3, did you guys learn anything, and what have you implemented? What have you implemented in your classroom from module 3? It could be nothing, but is there any takeaways that you had from module 3? Basically, if you're not implementing anything, what exactly are you guys, was there anything that you took away from module 3? Think about the types of play and how you can implement what you have learned. So Diana said she has learned that play is very important in the development and brain stimulation of the children. Thank you, Diana, for sharing. Karina said in our classroom we were trying to have our playtime be more open, so they grab a toy and play with it. What do you mean by more open, Kareen?
I've learned that in my classroom I try to have different. It, it was chapter 3 actually was really amazing, or module 3 was really amazing for me because I would play with the kids or allow the kids to have, playtime together, but never really saw how it changes or the impact that he had on the kids itself. And I kind of stood back. It made me kind of stood back and try to recognize how it really helps in developmental areas, in a lot of different developmental areas for them. It's amazing when you really take a step back and not be too busy and allow play to take its course in this kid's life. It's amazing.
Yeah, the power of observation is really huge in early childhood education, and just seeing the different interactions and the behaviors of the children really gives you good a perception of how they learn and how they develop. Thank you for sharing, Naomi. Kareen said about my question was, what do you mean by more open? She says, so before we had all the toys in the shelves and the teachers would pick a toy and they would play with that toy for 10 to 15 minutes, then a new toy. Okay, thank you for sharing. How about you, Marie? Did you have anything that impacted you? So Marie said she found it a little hard to figure out what stages went with each video. Yes, it is a little bit tricky because each stage is, I mean, there's different, in essence, there's different stages. There could have been possibly multiple stages that you're seeing from one kid to another kid. But then there's also, there's just a lot of different stages that could be in one video. Usually when we're looking at the video as a whole, we look to see what is the most and the most frequent observation that you see with the video. Usually it's so like, say the older children playing and they had cooperative play there. So you know for sure that that's what it is. It was, they were working together for a common goal. Something simple like that, but when it comes to like the infants and with the clay one was a little bit tricky because the child appeared to be playing by himself, but the other child was actually mimicking somewhat of what he was doing and actually joining in, even though he wasn't actually playing with him. He was playing with the actual clay itself. He wasn't being an onlooker and just looking to seeing what the child was doing, but actually partaking and trying to play parallel to him. But yeah, it is a little tricky. Those videos are a little bit tricky. That's why I posted something earlier in the week, just so you guys had a little foundation too, of how each of them are a little bit different than one another. All right. Does anybody have any questions? If not, I'm going to continue. So, Chapter 7, moving on, reflection and critical thinking questions from Chapter 7. So think about and discuss ways learning environments affect children behavior, relationship with peers, and academic performance. If you are viewing this on a recording, this is something else that you also have to discuss. And then the people that are online, you guys will just discuss it here, and we'll keep moving on. So think about and discuss the ways learning environments affect child's behavior, relationship with peers, academic performance.
Hi, Professor. This is Diana. I think that I can go back to what we were talking about a little earlier about the Q's classroom, how the children's behavior drastically change depending on who is in that classroom. And I think that depending on the environment and the relationships that the teachers have with each other, that the teacher has with the children, their behavior will change drastically. It's not about, they're in the same classroom all day, but the moment somebody else steps in, their behavior changes. They start being extra silly, extra bouncy. And this affects, that's why it's so important to have stability in the classroom and consistency with the teachers, consistency in the curriculum base. So I think that that's how, it affects the children's behavior, and being able to have a steady relationship with like one teacher and maybe one or two assistants. But I think that all of this affects them drastically when there's no stability in the classroom or no consistency. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, there's no right or wrong question. Is what basically of what you think. Just hearing different perspectives helps all of us, even myself, gain a better understanding of where you're coming from and how you view it.
Yeah, so following up, we have thankfully our preschool, pre-K, and TK classroom. It is the same teacher throughout the day. Well, actually, for the most part, and those children are so much more well behaved because the same teacher that they talk to all morning is in the afternoon, and they have that consistency, so they know that there's no way that they can fool that person and be bad after nap time or behave differently. But on the other hand, sometimes we have teachers that have been working for our kinder care center 30 years, 20 years, and they kind of have a set schedule that nobody can change or nobody's willing to discuss with. And in the morning, the children are wonderful. They're great. They follow directions. They stay in line. And once in the afternoon somebody else comes in, they're just a disaster. And so I think that's something that we struggle with right now because we want the children to learn. We want the children to be ready from 2-year-olds to preschool. But if we don't have consistency in the classroom with teachers and when in 2-year-old classroom, the kids are going to be a mess by the time they're 3 and they have to go to preschool because they're not developmentally ready because they weren't prepared with consistency in the previous class, Kind of like a domino effect.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like consistency says a lot and does a lot for a child, how children learn in their environment, and having those relationships with peers and how they actually perform academically, and just how the child behaves. I mean, they say it's best practice to have the same teacher 2 years in a row. I don't remember where I read that, but I feel like that it's pretty, especially for infants, having that same caregiver because if you have inconsistent caregivers, what kind of message are you saying to the child? If they're not or if they're not emotionally um, uh, they're not emotionally prepared and emotionally developed, then all other learning does not happen. Because if they're scared of something and if they're afraid of changes, of course their behavior and everything else, like you said, the domino effect will trickle down. So being very socially and emotionally ready and having that consistency will help the child. Thank you for sharing.
Hi, yes,
Green, oh,
sorry.
go ahead, Naomi.
Oh, Corinne, go right ahead with
Oh,
her. She did it
oh
first.
okay. No worries.
I'll do my time. Okay.
So Corinne said, if you have kids misbehaving, then all your attention is on them and not getting the curriculum done. That is true. A lot of times we spend more time redirecting misbehavior instead of actually teaching, which we figure, oh, it's more of a daycare than an actual school. And it kind of, when I was a teacher, that's kind of how I felt some years, not all the years, but some years, because I felt like there was times where I was trying to put out the fires of misbehaviors and hitting because I had a rough classroom and I felt like I could never get any of my lesson plans done. But yeah, I understand how you feel, and it does hit on that academic performance. Thanks for sharing, Kareen.
I I'm a big person on the design of the room and how the room is laid out. Um, I'm sorry. The different toys, um, the things that we have in our classroom, the objects, the maybe a book or just toys or just the way we design and lay out our room really also helps um, with the different behaviors in relationship with peers, and they're able to share. I try to work with relation like the children behavior. I tend to see and notice certain behaviors happening in my classroom, and I try to see exactly where in my classroom where they're most calm or most occupied, and they're not as they don't lash out, or they're not as bad behave as when they're not in that specific space. So I think the layout of the classroom and the design of your classroom speaks a lot to kids, and I think it disrupts them sometimes. It disrupts their ability to do a lot of things. Like in the five pills area, you have to be able to help these kids develop their social and emotional skills, their physical language, and I think just the layout of the classroom could help that with that, and help that child that having you know behavioral problems connect with things in the classroom that can help that child or even the children that they play with. If I find two kids playing together, and every time those two kids are together, it's like a knock on the head, a knock on the head. I always try to make them work it out at first, but then I will step in and intervene and try to see what is the problem, and maybe just that the class run properly in the morning, or just give us a little bit of a heads up with the behavior that's going to happen. I try to switch them around. So I put Ryan with this person, or I put Tom with this person, and just to help the class run smoothly, that I can at least try to get most of my work in for the day and stick with the lesson plan a little bit. You can never really stick with it, but just a little, and make sure that certain things happen throughout the day that needed to to be done.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, you're exactly right. You know, to add to that, I think the the learning environment and how you set it up um, is huge because I think for the child, especially younger children, well, any children, I think bringing in the child's home culture into the classroom is also very important. So transitions are smoother. You know, so you probably guys already do this already, but asking for like a family photo of their child and doing home and then possibly pictures of other important adults of their life and bringing them in and having them at eye level is huge. So they could see that and always be reminded that this is a safe place for me. Um, but yeah, learning environments and making sure that you have enough materials and that you don't put a quiet place like a cozy corner by a loud place where there's blocks and there's gross mortar going on. Um, because then, yeah, the room arrangement will be a little chaotic. Um, so you kind of led me, Naomi, into the next thing that we were going to talk about. For the sake of time, I'm going to run through this pretty quickly, just because I know we are running out of time already. So if you were asked to design a one-room classroom, what would that look like presented in Chapter 7? We don't really need to go over this too much since we kind of had a conversation about it. But if you are viewing this recording, I would like you guys to answer this. Just for the sake of time, guys, we will not go over this slide because we did kind of a little bit hit on it. But the last thing I really wanted to talk about before we end our live session is the nurturing relationships. So we're in the nurturing relationships module, and I wanted to know how will you get to know your children and what are some ways you can positively nurture relationships with young children and their families. I know with my Head Start teachers, we have 2 mandatory home visits that we do, where the teacher and the child gets to, the teacher, the child, and the parent meet. They come up with parent goals for the child and the families. They go over the family's culture so they can bring that information and make it conducive for the children in care. What are some ways you can positively nurture relationships with young children and their families, and what strategies do you guys usually do? Maria said parent-teacher conferences. Yes. In Head Start, we also have parent-teacher conferences. We are kind of held at a higher level than most child care programs just because we have mandatory stuff per our performance standards that we have to meet. So we have to have 2 home visits. We have to have 2 parent-teacher conferences. We have to have 3 gold assessments throughout the year. We have to have ages and stages questionnaire, ages and stages developmental screenings that we have to do. It's a lot, but yes, there is a lot of things that you guys could do besides parent-teacher conferences. What else do you do? I know a lot of people do the daily sheets, or sometimes people do, some teachers used to do pictures. Diana said family gatherings and having fun nights. We love having dinner on the go or dinner on us, where families have dinner made by us. We get to spend time together. that's a really cool idea of having a family night and getting to actually know your families on a personal level. That really gets to speak volumes to your program as that. I really do like that. There's also we also had parent cafes where we in our area where we share pretty much knowledge to the parents about the children that are going to school because we are really big advocates for school readiness. So we make sure that we get all that taken care of and try to partner up with the district schools too as well, so the transition is a little bit easier for the families and the kids. Corinne says they use an app for their daily sheets. Yes, it looks like a lot of things are going to the technological way where parents don't want it, companies don't want to waste paper and money, so they're going to these the daily sheets online, which I think is a great thing and a great app that a lot of programs actually do. So if you are listening or recording, if you're listening to the recording, this is another question you will have to answer. But I just want to close up. Thank you guys so much for sharing tonight. Do you guys have any questions? Oh yeah, I would like you guys to watch this TED Talk video whenever you guys get time. And I will actually send the link because I'll post a link later on tonight so you could actually view it. It's not mandatory, it's just something that I think that you guys would like to see. But yeah, now we'll have some questions and answer time. Do you guys have any questions for me? And by the way, yes, that is my child. She is silly. Well, thank you, ladies. I really enjoyed your time. Sorry it went a little bit longer. We had really good conversations. And Green, Diana, Marie, and Naomi, you guys will all receive full credit for this live session. And I hope to see you guys next week. If you guys have any other questions between now and then, please feel free to reach out to me. If not, have a good night, and we will talk later.